It's time for Agriculture, presented by TURKANA Farms in Germantown, New York, a small-scale producer of heritage breed livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres. They also produce a full array of garden vegetables, many of them heirloom varieties raised naturally, as well as an assortment of berries, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberries, black, red, and white currants, mulberries, and elderberries. And now, here's Victoria Cox.
Hey all, it's Victoria. As some of you may have heard, we endured a disaster this week. Our barn, home to our new turkeys, 10 years of stored wool, and a green tape deck I've had since 2004, burned so entirely it appears to have vanished. Just after dawn on Saturday morning, a fire marshal knocked on the door, and Troy and I ran outside. It seemed like every firefighter in the county was there. Trucks were pouring up the backfield to get closer, but it was already gone. Our collective best guess is that one of the turkey's heat lamps broke, catching the litter below on fire. Still, there's no way to know for sure. It's a shock, obviously, but it feels twice as hard because, in a sense, I've done this already. In November of 2016, a series of wildfires, accelerated by windstorms that downed power lines and carried burning embers, tore through East Tennessee and western North Carolina. My hometown, Gatlinburg, was close to the origin point and took the brunt of the impact, losing more than 2,000 buildings, including my family home and my grandma's house and fiber studio. As a deadly natural disaster, it's significant enough to have its own Wikipedia page. Being human, I still think of it as something that happened to me. Fortunately, no one in my human family was lost. They've all rebuilt or relocated close by, have replanted flower gardens and established new routes to work. We're thriving. I transplanted horsetails from the stream behind my grandma's house and wrote a newsletter about it. They're thriving too. After recounting something terrible, the next thing I feel compelled to say is, fortunately. This time, we're lucky that the response was quick and urgent, the spring was rainy, and nothing else on the farm was harmed. While we lost all the turkeys, at least none of the sheep were in the barn that night, and they're all safe in the far pasture now, seemingly unperturbed. We're working on plans for rebuilding, talking with the insurance adjuster, and figuring out next steps. I know how this part of the process goes, too. The only thing to do next is just keep doing the work. Make a meal, make a list, make the bed. It feels like I've practiced responding to this exact circumstance, gone through the process, done the stages of grief, and yet I wasn't, and I'm not ready. This is still taking me out at the knees. I'm so sad for our baby turkeys, and for the loss of what we thought this summer was going to look like. I've hesitated even to talk to my friends and neighbors about the fire, because I'm not ready to tell a story about it yet. I know all the beats, the arc, and the denouement, and I know that the retelling, repetition, and pursuit of meaning-making is part of how we deal collectively with sudden catastrophe. I taught a storytelling class for 4 years in college, meeting each week in the third floor of the student union to walk ourselves through this process in every permutation, and none of that made me ready either. It's easy to reach for a biblical narrative, or an apocalyptic one. My dad said that after the Gatlinburg fires, it looked to him like something out of Ancient Aliens. A beam of devastation that struck down one house and left the one next to it untouched. Looking out across our field, watching a pillar of smoke rise with the morning sun punching through it, the overtones were hard to ignore. It's even harder to resist this interpretation when it happens twice. I'm just kidding. I know that's not what happened here. It's not a threat, or a curse, or foreshadowing. It was just an accident. It's not about me. But if I take myself out of it, who is there to tell what happened? My dad and I talked through his experience together, over the phone and in person, until I feel like I know his side of it personally. I don't. You have to ask him to tell you. And he might not feel like it, because it makes everyone cry. We even came up with a shorthand to get around this problem. Code words to use when we don't want to get into the whole story. If we remembered something we'd lost, like my cassette player, we said we'd left it on the dining room table. We came up with this strategy collectively in the course of figuring out what had happened and what to do next. As a communal solution, I think there's wisdom in this act of not telling. We're still only a week out from this fire, and it's not going to be the last one that any of us encounters. When something difficult happens, there is a series of predictable responses that appear to compress our experience. Everything happens for a reason. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Every cloud has a silver lining. If one of these has ever been fed to you as the answer to your struggles, I invite you to tell me just how much it helped. I'd also like to propose an alternative. Give this to yourself as a gift. Reject the formal demands of narrative. Find a space for yourself and others in which the current substance of your life is not a lesson, a metaphor, or a stepping stone to greater growth and understanding. Allow your hurt to not mean anything at the moment. Let it not be a sign.
Agriculture is underwritten by TURKANA Farms, LLC, a small-scale producer of heritage-bred livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres in Germantown, New York. More information, 518-537-3815.